This book, man, I have been completely unimpressed. I am really pissed off with it. Actually, I'm not pissed off. I actually love this book. I absolutely love this. It's by V.E. Schwab. Well, it's a darker shade of magic. Everyone knows this book. Also available from Titan Books. Anyways, Schwab, A Darker Shade of Magic, wrote this book, and I absolutely love it. I've been reading it, and I have reached up to this point, the arrangement. However, I have been impressed from the first sentence, because there is something this book does very well that absolutely impresses me, okay? Also, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I haven't posted anything in a very long time. And the reason why is very simple. Wait for the bus to go by. There's a bus going by. The bus.
Seatbelts, everyone!
So the bus has gone by. Anyways, the reason why I haven't posted a lot is because I haven't posted a lot. Anyway, I'm posting right now. And the first opening sentence of this book, because I want to share this with you. If you're a writer by any means, you have to absolutely learn from this. You are in mortal danger if you do not learn the skill that V.E. Schwab, right, happens to display in this particular story. It is specifically from the first paragraph. And that is how to convince the audience to read info dumps. How do you convince the reader that they love the info dump that you are dumping down their throat, okay, that you're stuffing in there? The first sentence is, Kel wore a very peculiar coat. And this is what I mean. And it is something that I've learned from George R. Martin myself. And you see, in this particular story, the author, Schwab, seems to have an incredible ability to effectively begin the story with info dumps. Because what is the usual, what's the usual blah, 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 do not start the story with an info dump. And maybe start it with something interesting. Like, for example, he was dying. Here you have, Kel wore a very peculiar coat. In fact, the opening line, the hook in the particular story, is literally a piece of world building. And there is something very interesting about this peculiar coat. It had neither one side, which would be conventional, nor two, which would be unexpected, but several, which was, of course, impossible. So this is a coat, and it is a peculiar coat. And it is a coat with not only one side, nor two, but it actually has several, which was, of course, impossible. So, you see, we are invited into the story not by using the character as a hook, like he was having an existential crisis. No. Or he was running for his life. Not really. Or maybe there is a giant asteroid that's heading for Earth. And, there was a giant meteor tumbling through the sky, and we're all going to die in 2 days. That could be an opening line. I have really only ever seen this in A Song of Ice and Fire. There are other stories that I have seen, but the one where I saw it and noticed it for the first time in my life was in A Song of Ice and Fire, where the characters are beyond the wall, and they are effectively killed by the walkers. And so, the White Walkers, what the author is doing is basically, the author is just info dumping. But I want it. So, the question I asked before was, how do you convince the reader to keep reading even though you are info dumping? And here is the key principle that you must recognize. And it is that first you have to get the audience hooked before you dump information. So for example, what if I were to tell you, for instance, he was choking on glass. That's the opening hook to a particular story, right? I just made it up. So he was choking on glass. What would that mean? It means that effectively you are interested as to why he's choking on glass. Yes. Or it could be, for instance, it was his last moment. He was dying. Why is he dying? And so on and so forth. effectively any information I give you after that about the thing that I hooked you with, and you can hook the character, the reader at any point throughout the story, is going to be something you can info dump. It's going to be something that the reader will accept. Okay, let's wait for the bus to go by, because there's a bus going by. For instance, imagine there's a village and a strange man walks into the village. Okay, so the female protagonist can tell you, the strange man walked into the village in a red sunset and he wore a gray jacket, right? I can tell you that, and it's quite straightforward. It's very interesting. Anything I tell you about the village, following that, number one. Number two, anything I also info dump about the character, the strange man character, is going to be information that the reader will larp up, swallow, without it being boring, right? So by telling you that there is a village and a strange man that walks into it during a sunset, any information I tell you about that particular man and that particular village, I can info dump, and I can info dump as much as I want, and you as the writer can info dump as much as you want. And so this is the principle here. Effectively, what Schwab does here is rather interesting, because the character Kel wore a peculiar coat. Obviously, we know that, or I know, that this is because every time he moves to a different London, right? Dark, a dark shade of magic. There are different types of Londons that are parallel to each other, and the character can shift between them. He can, move between them. And so each time he has to adjust his suit and so on and so forth, this peculiar coat. And so he goes on. The first thing he did whenever he stepped out of one London and into another was take off the coat and turn it inside out once or twice, or even 3 times, until he found the side he needed. Not all of them were fashionable, but they each served a purpose. They were ones that blended in and ones that stood out, and one that served no purpose, but of which he was just particularly fond. Okay, so this is a piece of character here. This is a little bit of an interesting character trivia, which is rather, it's good. But this is just info dumping. Usually, this is just considered info dumping. And it's actually considered bad practice. You are going to absolutely enjoy reading that info dumping. And that's what I find very interesting here. So when Kel passed through the palace wall and into the, anteroom, he took a moment to steady himself. It took its toll, moving between walls, and then shrugged out of his red high-collared coat and turned it inside out from right to left so that it becomes a simple black jacket. See, this is so interesting. We are literally reading info dumping. Well, a simple black jacket, elegantly lined with silver thread and adorned with 2 gleaming columns of silver buttons. Just because he adopted a more modest palette when he was abroad, wishing neither to offend the local royalty nor to draw attention, didn't mean he had to sacrifice style. This is also another piece of character trivia. Oh my God, there's another bus going on. There's literally another bus. There has been, oh my God, 4, 5. This is, wow, impressive. Yeah, that's what I call effective public transportation. Let's go down. A marble counter ran against the wall, and on it a basin of water waited for him, as it always did. He rinsed his bloody hand, as well as the silver crown he had used for passage. I mean, think about it. We are still doing world building. Above the counter and the basin hung a mirror of gilded frame, and Kel checked his reflection quickly. His hair, a reddish brown, swept down across one eye, and he did not fix it. Though, see, this is still world building. Finally, we have some story that's going on here. Who's there? He called out without turning. Robbers, ghosts. I don't believe ghosts would answer. Anyways, this world building legit just keeps going on. So, for example, Kel patted the pockets of his coat and realized he had forgotten to take the notes out before changing. He shrugged out of the jacket and returned it for a moment to its red, self, digging through its folds its red self, right? We are still doing world building. It has been quite a while. He meant the magic. Kel never noticed the faint aromatic scent of red London. We're still doing the world building. The Queen did not refer to it as the Red Throne or send greetings from Red London, even though the city was in fact quite crimson thanks to the rich, pervasive light of the river, because she did not think of it that way. To her, and to everyone else who inhabited only one London, there was little need to differentiate among them. When the rulers of one conversed with those of another, they simply called them others or neighbors, or on occasion, less flattering terms. See, we're still doing world building. In truth, the cities themselves bore little resemblance to one another. The fact that they were all called London was its own mystery. Through the prevailing theory was that one of the cities had taken the name long ago, before the doors were all sealed, and the only things allowed through were letters between kings and queens. I hope you can see we're still doing world building. We are still doing world building. A lot of this. Kel dug his hand into his pocket. The first time he had visited the King of England, he had given him a coin as proof of who he was and where he came from. It is still going on. And that's what I really want you to learn from, right? And that's what I want you to understand. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.